All right. What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up, the Catch fam? All right, so I did start this stream about 10 minutes early, guys. I was ready to go. And yeah, just wanted to hop right into it, man. We have got a lot to get into. I was just looking into my waivers for the week, and I got some tough calls to make. Um, I have got a ton of receivers in mine and Steven's 12-man league, our primary league, right? And uh, there's some good QBs out there, some defenses I'm interested in. Chuba Hubbard is out there, of course. There's a lot of tough calls to make right now. I think that we're going to be having a lot of discussion around our guy Hubbard tonight. But overall, man, these waivers are looking tough for me individually. In my 20-man league, it's pretty thin. I'm just putting in a waiver for Chuba. And outside of that, I've got Peyton Barber and Dalton Schultz after him, and I think Marquez Callaway. Those are like the only players in my 20-man league that I'm considering at this moment. But Chuba is the main player I'm going for in my 20-man league. But in my 12-man league, there's always someone out there, right? I've got a really bad matchup for my quarterback, that being Lamar Jackson versus Denver this week. Sam Darnold's floating around out there, right? I mean, I've got Danny Dimes on my roster, but he faces New Orleans, who are the second best team in the league right after Denver against opposing quarterbacks. So Sam Darnold's got a juicy matchup, right? He's got the Dallas Cowboys coming up, who have been pretty awful against opposing quarterbacks, and Sam Darnold has performed well against the Jets and the Saints, who are top three teams against opposing quarterbacks. So I just don't know how much I want to give up for Sam Darnold, right? I'm looking through here, and KJ Osborne's on my roster. He's got some tough matchups. He's got Cleveland, Detroit, and Carolina, who are respectively ranked number 7, number 11, and number 8 against opposing receivers. He didn't perform well against Seattle, but I'm scared to drop him with what we saw from him through the first 2 weeks. Zach Pascal's got a kind of middle of the pack matchup this week against Miami, and then Baltimore, then Houston, and San Francisco. So those are actually pretty difficult matchups, but I mean, he really disappointed me last week, and I don't know how consistent he's going to be. And then I've got Corey Davis. He's got 2 really good matchups, right? He's got Tennessee this week, and then after that, he's got Atlanta. Then he's got a bye week. Then he's going to come out and face New England, who he performed awfully against in week 2. So it's really tough on who I'm going to drop. I am dropping Quentin Cephas for now, being that I need to try and get this waiver for Chuba, right? But overall, man, I've got a ton of receivers. In my starting lineup, I've got both Henry Ruggs and Tim Patrick. So those are the 2 guys I'm most confident in. I've still got Antonio Brown in my injured spot. So, yeah. There are a lot of players to consider out there at the moment. Dalton Schultz is another guy who I'm considering, but I just don't know how consistent we're going to see that type of performance that we saw last night out of him, or even similar performance to what we saw in week 1, right? So it's a half PPR league, so I'm not as confident in him. I mean, Mike Gesicki, right? I talked about it last week. I said I was going to give him one last chance to put up a good stat line, and he did. I mean, Brissett targeted him 12 times. He had 10 receptions for 86 receiving yards. And I believe Brissett will be playing in the next coming weeks, right? He's got Indianapolis, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville. Then Atlanta. We'll see. I mean, Tua is supposed to come back around week 6. So we'll see if that happens. But week 6 is when he's at Jacksonville, right? So I kind of think Gesicki is a good start while Brissett is playing, just being that Brissett targeted him so often. So I'm going to hold on to Gesicki for now and just keep my conviction in him as a player overall. Outside of that, man, my running backs are looking bad. David Montgomery, man, I vouched for you. I know that the offense isn't great. I know that it's not all on you. Your O-line is bad, but look, coming in and half PPR at RB19. I've got James Robinson, who's RB16, and then Javonte Williams, who's RB39. Then an injured Christian McCaffrey, who even after that performance last week where he got injured is still sitting at RB3. So I really need this waiver for Chuba. And luckily and unfortunately, I have been not performing very well in this fantasy league. And I am sitting at the 10th overall spot. So I've got a pretty good waiver priority for the week. So I do think that it's possible that I get that waiver for Chuba, but I've still got two other guys out there who could, be in the race for Chuba as well, so to speak. Evan Harrison, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat, man. Hope you had a great day. Happy to have you here as always, my guy. What's up, Catch? How was your day, man? My day, it was long, man. It was long, but it was good, man. You got to make the best out of what you are handed, and yeah, long work day. But it's all good, man. I get to come home and hang out with the wife for a bit and then hop on here. So no complaints whatsoever, man. Hope you had a great day, like I already said. And yeah, man, let me know how you're feeling about Week 4 fantasy. Let me know, what your waivers are looking like overall. And yeah, I'm interested to see how you're sitting and who you're looking at or on the waiver wire. Like I said, I've got some tough calls to make, man. But I can tell you that my second priority waiver outside of Chuba is the Saints defense. I mean, I've got the Rams defense in this league, and I want to drop them. I'm not going to actually drop the Rams. They do have some pretty favorable matchups coming up, and the Saints are on bye week in Week 6, so I'd like to have both of those defenses. But right now, overall, the Rams, I mean, they've faced some pretty decent teams, and they're facing Arizona and Seattle, which are, definitely not favorable by any means. And then they've got the Giants and the Lions, and then Houston, which I like those matchups quite a bit. But I would argue that the Rams defense might be worth dropping at this point in time. They just don't seem to be that type of defense. They're a great defense, but from a fantasy perspective, I'm not sure how great they're going to be. So yeah, not feeling overly confident in keeping them on my roster, right? I mean, the Saints defense is best defense in the league from a fantasy perspective right now. So, yeah, man, I like where they're sitting at this point in time. They've got some favorable matchups. I mean, they've got, if I'm not mistaken, the Giants, yeah, and then the Washington football team. So I like both of those matchups. I don't think they're the two worst teams in the league whatsoever, but I think they're two teams that we can count on and having some turnovers on a pretty consistent basis, right? So, yeah, I like where the Saints are at overall, and I'm not really scared to drop the Rams defense, as some other good defenses have been dropped in this league as well. All right, fellas, let's get into it. Glad to see a lot of activity in the chat. Kellen Brown, what is going on, man? Hope you're doing fantastic. Happy to have you here in the live stream tonight. Let's see. DK and CD for Davante Adams. Whew. You're giving up a little bit of depth there, and I really like where both DK and CD are. So I would want to see the rest of your roster before I made a call there. I mean, I'm not going to argue against trading for Davante Adams by any means, but I do think you're giving up a little bit of depth overall, and I do believe that as a whole, right, having DK and CD might be a little bit more valuable than just having Davante Adams. I'd like to see the rest of your roster. I don't think it's the worst trade ever, as you're getting, in my opinion, the best receiver in the entire league, and probably from a consistency standpoint, the most consistent receiver in the entire league, who we all know that Aaron Rodgers is absolutely infatuated with. So I'd like to see the rest of your roster, but I don't think it's the worst trade. I want to see how it's going to affect the rest of your depth, because I think DK and CD on a regular basis are going to have great performances. Evan Harrison, I'm 10th in the waiver wire. Was looking at a Chiba, but I don't think I should even try. Thoughts on maybe the Titans defense with their schedule, or their upcoming schedule, and also Peyton Barber is on my wire. Yeah, I like all three of those additions. I think all of them would be beneficial to you. I'm not completely sold on the Titans, to be honest with you, man. They are the worst defense in the league. And that's, not just an opinion, right? That's just statistically speaking, and from a fantasy perspective as well. And I know that, a lot of people were excited to watch some, battle of battered up Carson Wentz last week, and or potentially Jacob Eason or whoever the Colts are going to throw out there, right? And they didn't perform at all. They've only put up 5 fantasy points all season long through 3 games. So in my humble opinion, man, I understand that they're facing, Zach Wilson this week and Trevor Lawrence next week. So I kind of, and then, after that, man, they've got Buffalo and Kansas City, right? So it's not looking good after that. It's definitely a drop after that. So you can take the risk. I won't be surprised if they put up a couple turnovers next week and the week after combined. But overall, man, 5 fantasy points on the season. This secondary is atrocious, and up front, they don't look much better as well. So my thoughts are, taking a chance on a guy like Peyton Barber, who could see RB1 value, is probably a better bet. And I'd be interested to see what other defenses are out there, because I do think there are some better defenses that you could potentially stream. Maybe like the Bengals have. Bengals have been actually performing quite well. And they're facing Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence this week. So I like that stream for the week a little bit more than the Titans. All right, Noah Dronto, what is going on, man? Happy to see you in the chat. Hope you are doing fantastic. Appreciate you being out here tonight. I just proposed this trade. Gibson, A.J. Brown, and Gronk for Eckler and Hawkinson. I have plenty of receivers. Is this a bad trade? My other receivers are Ridley, Mike Williams, Allen Robinson, and Chris Godwin's in 8-team leagues, so that's why I'm so stacked up. I like that trade, actually. If you need help at the running back position, if it's full PPR as well, and you're looking to replace Gibson, with Eckler essentially, and I think Gronk's still going to have a good rest of the season, right? I know some people after the not as good performance last week a little bit scared, but and I like Gibson on the season as well, right? But I think that the upgrade at the running back position with Eckler in terms of consistency is definitely going to suit your team, right? And then I think a guy like TJ Hawkinson, although coming off a bad performance, is a good upgrade as well. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad trade, especially looking at the rest of your receivers there. Richard Glass, what is going on, brother? Happy to have you in the chat as always, man. Happy to have you here in the live stream. He says, what's up, guys? I had someone offer me Allen and Jay Taylor for Lamb and Tyson. I was like, okay. Yeah. Interesting, man. Interesting. Did you go through with the trade? I'd be interested to hear. But happy to see you, brother. Happy to have you here as always, man. It's Crip. Dak and Wilson throw way too much to give them up. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that statement. Happy to see you here as always, my guy. Kellen Brown. The problem with it is I would have Keenan Allen and Tay in my 2 wide receiver spots, but now in my flex I would have to start Gaskin and Melvin Gordon, and my 2 starting running backs are Saquon and AK. Yeah. I honestly, man, if you're asking me, as good as Davante Adams is, I think on the season having DK and CeeDee Lamb is going to give your roster more value overall. And just having the depth as well. As you're saying, the problem overall is that it's going to affect the rest of your roster. I mean, you're still getting Davante Adams, don't get me wrong, man, but I'm still a huge advocate for DK Metcalf on the season, and I think CeeDee Lamb as well is just going to continue to have a phenomenal season. Uh, if you're asking me personally, I would hold on to both those receivers. If it was my roster, that's what I would do. But if you do decide to trade for Devontae, you're still getting Devontae Adams. So it's a tough call. But if it was me personally, I would stay with just both of those two receivers, DK and CeeDee Lamb. Chase Brown, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat. Hope you're doing well tonight. I won my matchup by 0.8 points because of Zeke. Now I'm 1-2 instead of 0-3. Let's go, baby. Also, I have both Josh Allen and Herbert. I don't need Herbert, but I don't want to just drop him. I want to trade him, but everyone is stacked at quarterback. What should I do with him? What I would do is I would look if there's any teams that have guys like Lamar Jackson, who hasn't been performing in great fashion necessarily outside of that matchup against the Chiefs, and has a very, very bad matchup this week overall. Potentially look to ship him to that team. Daniel Jones has a bad matchup this week. There's a couple quarterbacks out there who don't have favorable matchups, so I would look to those teams that have quarterbacks with unfavorable matchups and see if potentially you can ship him in that direction. If not, man, just find a high value player, at receiver, tight end, running back positions, or even defensive positions. And if you do drop him straight up, I do believe come the times when Josh Allen is facing good defenses or when he is on bye week, that you can potentially stream someone versus or versus whomever, right? On those weeks that you can't utilize Josh Allen. So there's a couple options that you could go with there. Rio Goated, what is up, brother? Happy to see you in the chat. Happy to have you here as always, my guy. Hope you're doing fantastic tonight. C. Crip, what is going on, brother? Good to see you, my guy. A lot of loyal members of the Catch fam out here tonight, man. Good to see all of you guys. Hey, what's up, man? What's good? I'm having a hard time choosing for my flex. I don't know if I should start Pittman, Sanders, Marvin Jones, or Cordell. I can't say his name. Cordell Patterson. Wow, I'm really struggling with that one tonight. Yeah, these are the questions that we're here for, man. So let's hop right into it. I like Sanders this week, man, coming off of a big momentum week, right? I think that the Bills are starting to kind of get back to that true form, of course. He's got a great matchup against Houston. So I really like Sanders this week overall. I don't dislike Pittman, but he did really disappoint us last week, right? And Miami is a pretty middle-of-the-pack stretch, right? I really expected Pittman to have a better week overall last week. I would say he's an okay start. I think in full PPR, he's still a good start overall, but I like Sanders more coming off of a big momentum week against a Houston Texans defense that is not very good whatsoever. Marvin Jones, not a bad start either, but I still think Sanders gives you a higher ceiling at the moment. And then when we're looking at our guy Patterson, he's going to be an interesting play week in and week out. He had another good performance last week, but he's got the toughest matchup out of the players that you just listed. So if you're asking me, man, I'm taking a swing on Sanders, and then I would kind of put both Jones and Pittman in an even category there if you don't want to, take the risk on Sanders. Although, like I said, I do think he gives you the highest ceiling, right? And then after that, I would say based on matchup, Patterson's the worst start out of those guys, although his volume could, really benefit him as well. But, I mean, this Washington football team is kind of hard to read. I mean, they're the 7th ranked team against opposing running backs in fantasy football right now. But they tend to be kind of, I feel like they're kind of falling apart, especially after getting dismantled by the Bills. But I also just don't have a lot of faith in the Falcons' offense. So if you're asking me, I would roll with Sanders, and then I think the next best play is you kind of flip a coin between, both Pittman and Marvin Jones. So it's a tough call, but I do think that if you're asking me, I would roll with Sanders, man. All right, let's see here. Brent plays Madden. What is going on, brother? Happy to have you here in the stream tonight. Hope you're doing fantastic, man. Hope you consider becoming part of the Catch fam by hitting that sub button down below. But nonetheless, man, we just appreciate you being out here in the stream. And let's get into the question. Someone offered me Aaron Jones and Calvin Ridley for my Derrick Henry. Do I take it? I love Henry, but it seems too good to pass up. That is a tough call, man. I love Derrick Henry as well. He's one of my favorite, if not my favorite players in all of fantasy football. But the extra depth you're going to benefit there is, yeah, that's a really tough decision, man. I can definitely see why you're pondering that one. Geez, I mean, Derrick Henry's the best running back in fantasy football. I know week 2 is really elevating that statistic, but it's a tough call, man. It's a tough call. I mean, I love Aaron Jones on the season as a whole as well. I think he's going to be extremely consistent. I mean, he's sitting at like RB2 right now. So it's a pretty even matchup, or, pretty even trade-off, I should say, right? And once again, Aaron Jones' week 2 performance kind of bolstering that statistic as well. But, and then you're getting Ridley in there too. It's a really tough call, man. I actually think, while I really don't advise trading away a player like Derrick Henry, right? Don't get me wrong, Calvin Ridley's sitting at like wide receiver 30-ish. I mean, he's not performing as well as we expect him to, and the Atlanta Falcons offense not performing well at all. So while I think he's a good, value in terms of his volume and being a wide receiver 1, he's not the greatest upgrade at receiver. But the trade-off between Henry and Jones, at least looking at the numbers right now, it's not too bad. So I think you should definitely consider it. But at the end of the day, man, go with your gut conviction, because that is a tough call to make. But thank you for the question, man. Truly appreciate you coming through and bringing up the question, man, because that's a tough one to call. So let me know if you want any further clarification there as well. All right, Real Goated, do you think I should assuming trade Lamar Jackson for wide receiver 1, like DK or Ridley or Cup or someone else like that, so I can have another receiver? Then I was going to pick up Derek Carr. He had 20 plus every game. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad move, man. I think there are a couple quarterbacks right now. Derek Carr, if he's available, Sam Darnold, if he's available, who are going to be relatively relevant, I should say, relevant fantasy starters all season long. So if you want to get an upgrade at the receiver position, you can get someone as valuable as DK Metcalf or Cooper Kupp, right? I think they're far more valuable than Ridley. Then I think it's okay. And I know Lamar has been a little lackluster lately, but nonetheless, man, I wouldn't give up on him on the season yet. But I think replacing him with someone like Derek Carr is okay, man. Especially if you get a true upgrade at the receiver position. And I would put players like Cooper Kupp or DK Metcalf, players of that caliber in that conversation. I wouldn't give up Lamar Jackson for someone like Calvin Ridley, who's still, like I just went over, sitting at receiver number 30 right now. I mean, his volume's going to be good on the season, but I would want a true stud if you're giving up a quarterback that you spent that much overall draft capital on. Oh gosh, we're playing awful in Madden tonight, guys. All right, Chase Brown, what is going on, man? Let's get back into your questions here. Also, I have Noah Fant, but he hasn't been great. Should I pick up someone like Conklin or stick with Fant? Also going to get Beasley off waivers. Should I flex him, Julio, Mitchell, or Boyd? I'm leaning Beasley, even if Julio and Mitchell were healthy. And okay, so let's stay with let's get to the first 2 questions. Okay. I would stick with Noah Fant. Sorry, it took me a second. Listen, man, Noah Fant's strength of schedule is ridiculously easy. And I like Conklin right now as a waiver addition, but I still, overall, unless I'm really struggling at the tight end position, want to see a larger sample size out of Conklin before I put that much faith in him. I know Noah Fant has been a little disappointing as of late, but the strength of schedule is just ridiculously easy. And the Broncos are playing good football, man. Like, really, really good football. And I would continue to roll with Noah Fant personally if it was my roster. And then as far as your flex, I really like the idea of flexing Cole Beasley in full PPR this league, man, or this week, man. Listen, this Bills team is probably going to absolutely decimate, uh, you know, the excuse me, Houston Texans this week, man. I mean, actually, the Houston Texans have played pretty well overall against opposing receivers, but I think that with what we saw the Bills do last weekend, I think that they're going to be ready to go. And I mean, Carolina played very well against Houston Texans last week, right? And I have a strong feeling that the Bills are going to show up in this game, and I think that Cole Beasley is going to have another good PPR performance this coming week as well. So I like the idea of flexing him. Um, I mean, I don't hate Julio Jones or Mitchell if they're fully healthy, but yeah, I think that in terms of momentum, Cole Beasley is going to have a very good week. So let's see here. For the Lamar Jackson owner, how about Herbert and Boyd for his A.J. Brown? Yeah, that's a good call too. Secret, appreciate it, my guy. Also, do you think I should keep Miles Sanders in RB2 spot or replace him with Patterson? I'm scared Sanders won't get much touches. Yeah, I mean, this past, last night's game was very disappointing. If you were or are a Sanders owner, right? I mean, listen, Patterson, technically speaking, has the tougher matchup. And Kansas City has been very bad against opposing running backs, and opposing receivers for that matter. But I know it's a little bit of a risky call, as Sanders only had 2 touches last week, which is just absolutely crazy. I mean, just stupid, right? He's got to have a good week against Kansas City. But if you start Patterson over him, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad call either. I think that Sanders could have a good week, but that's a tough one, man. It truly, truly is. It's really tough. I would consider still starting Sanders coming off of a bad week and a week where he barely got any playing time, right, and really didn't do anything fancy relevant. But the Chiefs have been very bad against opposing running backs, and I look for him to bounce back. I truly do. And I mean, I think Patterson had a good week this past week. Technically, he's got a worse matchup overall going against the Washington football team, but I don't hate his matchup overall just because of the volume he's going to see, right? But it's a tough call, man. It's a really tough call between those two guys. Patterson has been performing better. I mean, he's had at least 7 rushing attempts in every game this year, and he's really making the most of them as well. So let's see. He's also got, in week 2 and week 3, he had at least 7 targets, and he's making the most out of those targets too. He only had 2 targets in week 1, but it's a tough call, man. That's a really, really tough call. As I see you saying, thanks, man. Yeah, no problem, man. Of course, that's what we're here for, my guy. That is what we are here for. All right, let's see here. Real good. And let me know if you want any more clarification on that secret. It's a tough call between those two guys. I think they're both pretty decent starts this week, though. Real good. Do you think I should trade Lamar and Kenny Golladay for DK, or just try to go even and trade Lamar for DK straight up, or do you recommend adding someone else in the trade besides Golladay? I like the idea of adding Kenny Golladay there for value, right? I would try and get a second player initially, right? If you get pushback, then I think it's okay to trade Lamar and Kenny for just DK. But initially, you should try and at least get someone of somewhat value, a 2-for-2 trade. It doesn't have to be the best player on the roster, right? You're really looking for that value to come from the receiver. So it doesn't have to be the best player overall. It doesn't even necessarily matter what position it's at. But initially, yeah, I would try and get some sort of value out of a second player in that trade. And then if you get pushed back, then I think it's okay to put Kenny Golladay and Lamar Jackson on the trading block. But you also want to make sure that you secure Derek Carr on waivers first so that you're not left empty-handed at the quarterback position. All right, Tron, what's up, man? What is up with you, brother? Hope you're doing great tonight. Good to see you in the chat. Good to have you here in the live stream. Should I drop Sermon if I have Mitchell? Tough call. This is something I've talked about a lot this season and even in the preseason as well, right? The way that the Niners use these running backs is very frustrating from a fantasy perspective, right? It's hard to tell who's going to have the most touches each week. It's hard to tell who's going to show up each week. It's hard to tell who's going to have a boom week, right? Jeff Mitchell's coming back soon. Kerryon Johnson's been elevated from the practice squad. Trey Sermon had a pretty good game overall against the Green Bay Packers, but I'm just hesitant about this backfield overall. And it's, the injuries don't make it any better because now we don't know who's going to start, and if they start, who's going to be the lead back, right? So it's just like, it's super confusing, man. And it's very difficult from a fantasy perspective to know who to keep around and who to not keep around, right? Let's see. So Coach Kyle Shanahan is hopeful Mitchell takes part in practice this week. Let's see. Shanahan told he's hoping for better signs that Mitchell's able to suit up week 4. So that's hard to read. That doesn't really give us any information. Here's the deal, man. The Seahawks are the worst team in the National Football League against opposing running backs from a fantasy perspective. So, honestly, knowing that Trey Sermon is fully healthy, I think that he might be better to hold on to right now. But it's a really tough, really tough backfield to call, and it's a really tough backfield to monitor from a fantasy perspective, right? If Mitchell doesn't play, then, of course Sermon's going to be the lead back, right? But overall, man, it's just like, even if Mitchell is healthy, Trey Sermon might end up being the RB1. So it's a tough call, man. And I'm just not a fan of this backfield whatsoever, man, from a fantasy perspective. It's quite difficult to manage on a regular basis, man. It drives fantasy owners crazy year after year, right? So don't mean to not answer your question, but if you're asking me, I would take the risk and just hold on to Trey Sermon if you truly have to drop both of them, right? So, all right, let's see here. Chase Brown, Colts defense or Titans? If you're asking me, man, I actually think Miami's going to play pretty well against the Colts. And then, I don't know what I just did, man. I don't like Tennessee's defense this week. I know this is a hot stream right now, but Tennessee is still the worst defense in the entire league, guys, and I just am not comfortable advising starting them from a fantasy perspective. Could they pick off Zach Wilson? Sure. I guess anyone can. Do they have Trevor Lawrence the following week? And sure. But the Bengals might be available. They've got a great matchup against the Jaguars, and they're actually performing very well defensively, most importantly, right? Put up 12 points against Pittsburgh last week, and they've been sneaky good. Maybe not entirely from a fantasy perspective, but they've been pretty sneaky good as a defensive unit. So I like the Bengals this week a little bit more if they are available, and then I would check and see if they're available. If I had to pick between the Colts and the Titans, I'd probably roll with the Colts because I really just don't like the Titans this week at all. Let me know if any of you other guys have any feedback on that, because I'm not comfortable advising, picking up the Titans with how poor they performed from a fantasy perspective overall this year. But last week they were supposed to be a hot addition. I get that Carson Wentz ended up playing, and even if he didn't play, I don't know how well they would have performed as a whole. All right. Tron, I see in response to your first question, he will be my RB4, but I want players from waivers for depth, and I don't know who to cut. I have Wilson as well as on my RR as a safe blanket. Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're almost just kind of flipping a coin, right? I think it's okay to drop one of them, but unfortunately, we probably won't know if Elijah Mitchell is going to play probably until the weekend or at Friday at best, excuse me. And it's a hard call. I think you're kind of flipping a coin. I think it's great that you have Jeff Wilson as well to kind of fall back on, but I mean, we know that Trey Sermon is fully healthy, and even if Mitchell ends up playing, I think that Sermon might end up having a good game, and vice versa. It's just such a hard backfield to call on a consistent basis, man. Let's see, Adrian Rodriguez. Should I trade Jonathan Taylor for someone like Mike Evans, Julio J, or get more value? I think Mike Evans is a pretty good value for Jonathan Taylor if you feel confident in the rest of your running backs on your roster. I think that's a pretty good addition. I don't know. I mean, with A.J. Brown down right now, Julio's going to be of more value, although he's been a little bit banged up from a veteran perspective, right? So it's hard to say, man. But I think that's a pretty decent value if you were to get somebody like Mike Evans, who's going to give you a really high ceiling week in and week out. So I think, while A.J. Brown is down, you're going to see some good production out of Julio. But if you're confident in the rest of the running backs on your squad, then I think both of those are pretty fair, overall trades, the way that Jonathan Taylor's been playing. Although I still believe in him on the season, but I just don't know from a fantasy perspective at this point in time, especially the way that the Colts are playing, if they're going to choose to implement him how they should, which is very frustrating, right? But I think those are decent trade options if you feel confident with the rest of your running backs, that is. All right, Chase Brown just offered my Julio, Boyd, and Herbert for Pascal, Ridley, and A.J. Brown. Good trade? Question mark. Let's see here. I don't think it's a bad trade. I think you're getting, two. When A.J. Brown is healthy, you're getting two very consistent wide receiver ones, right? And that of A.J. Brown and Ridley, who are going to see consistent volume on the season, and I like the addition of Zach Pascal as well. So if you're trying to ship Herbert, and then you're kind of upgrading at the receiver position, although of course A.J. Brown is injured right now. Wow, what am I doing in Madden? There we go. It's a tough call, man. But I do think it's a good trade overall, right? And I think that Julio initially right now is going to have some better weeks while our guy A.J. Brown is down. But on the season, I think it's a pretty good trade overall. All right, Adrian, thank you. Appreciate you. Yeah, man, I appreciate you being in the live stream. Appreciate you showing support. No problem, man. That is what the channel is for. So, lots of good fantasy Q&A for week 4 popping off, guys. Appreciate you guys coming through. And let me try and help you guys pick through some of these decisions. Definitely happy to help you guys whenever I can, man. So let me know what else you guys are looking for tonight. I need to double check my waivers. Yeah, man. Am I crazy for dropping the Rams defense? Because they just don't have really any good matchups coming up. And while I think they're a great defense, I just don't know in terms of fantasy how relevant they're going to continue to be. I think they've got some good matchups down the stretch, but I just don't know, man. I would rather have the Saints defense, although they go on bye week in week 6. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Rams defense. Let's see here. I mean, they're 14th overall. They've got Arizona and Seattle, so that's pretty abysmal. And then they've got the Giants and Detroit and Houston, Tennessee and the Niners, which some good matchups in there for sure, but not the best matchups as a whole, right? So I would rather have the Saints right now. And then I can pick up a different defense whenever I need to. So, Chase Brown, thanks for answering all my questions. Sorry, I got lots of questions. Yeah, that's no problem, man. Trying to figure out my 1-2 team and needing to make some moves. Yeah, I hear you, man. A lot of people need to make moves right now. This has just been, it's been a weird fantasy year, man. So, no worries, man. I'm happy to answer any questions that you got, man. So let me know if you need anything else, my guy. No worries at all. Boss Man Fat, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat. Happy to have you here in the live stream, man. Hope you're doing fantastic. And let's get to it. Should I drop Zach Pascal for Tim Patrick or Bryan Edwards? If you're asking me, I think Tim Patrick's the best receiver out of those three guys. Looking at the stats on the season, and with KJ Hamler going down with an injury as well, I think that's only going to make for more targets for Tim Patrick. And the Broncos as a whole have such an easy strength of schedule. They're playing great football. Teddy Bridgewater has like the second highest QB rating in the entire National Football League. So I would consider Tim Patrick because I think the Broncos are in a better spot than the Colts are. I like Zach Pascal, but we finally saw some inconsistency in him last week. And, really, the Colts are just going to continue to be inconsistent on a regular basis. And I like Bryan Edwards, too. I truly do. And if you, look at week 1 and week 2 where he had a touchdown call back in both games, if we add that to his fantasy stat line, he would be a must-added receiver in every format, right? So if you're asking me, I think that Tim Patrick's in the best position to perform well from a fantasy perspective on a consistent basis, right? But I do like Edwards, man. Like I said, if we were to, as I see you asking, what about Edwards? Should I still contest for both? Yeah, if you're asking me, if it was my roster personally, I would put the waiver in for Tim Patrick first, and then I would have a second waiver in for Edwards. I like where Edwards is at. Like I said, man, if we take, if we add those touchdowns back that got called back, people would be all over this guy. He wouldn't even be available. He's available in a lot of leagues, right? And the Raiders look very good, and I like where they're suited as well over the Colts. I still think Zach Pascal is a pretty good receiver. He's getting a lot of red zone targets, don't get me wrong, man. But in terms of consistency and in terms of the offenses as a whole, I like where the Raiders are more and where the Broncos are more. In comparison with Edwards and Tim Patrick, right? There's a lot more of offensive weapons on the Raiders at the moment in terms of people or players competing for targets, right? We've got Henry Ruggs, right? We've got Renfro, we've got Darren Waller, we've got Kenyon Drake catching passes. Then when we look at the Broncos, the running game is a big part of what they do, and they've got Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton. Tim Patrick's kind of in a prime receiver number 2 role, so I think that he's a better fantasy addition at the moment. I've got him on both of my primary rosters, and I look for him to perform as a wide receiver 2 on a consistent basis. But I do like where Edwards is at as well. And I don't dislike Pascal. I just think that the way that the Colts are playing is far more inconsistent overall. And I would love for him to be consistent. I've got him in my 12-man league as well. And I've got Henry Ruggs. So not exactly Edwards, but I've got a similar group of receivers there. So I like all those guys, but I would rank them Tim Patrick, Bryan Edwards, and Zach Pascal, really based on strength of schedule as well as where their respective offenses and quarterbacks are looking on the season at this point in time. So we appreciate the question, man. Appreciate you being in the live stream, as I see you saying. For sure. Thanks, man. I got you, bro. That is what the channel is here for, so we just appreciate you guys coming out and showing support and asking the questions, man. That is really all that we look for, man, in terms of saying thanks, man. So appreciate you guys being out here tonight. Hope you guys are all smashing that like button, man. Hope you guys are just having a great night, man. I know all you guys are already members of the Catch fam, so appreciate you guys, 100%, man. So yeah, looking at my 12-man league, my waivers are going, dropping Quentin Cephas for Chuba Hubbard, dropping Daniel Jones for Sam Darnold, which I'm still kind of debating on. I just think that Sam Darnold has some easier matchups coming up. He's got the Cowboys. Philly's actually not a great matchup, although Dallas just decimated them. And he's got Minnesota, the Giants, and Atlanta. And then Danny Dimes has got New Orleans this week, which is a bad matchup. And then Dallas, a good matchup. But then the Rams and Carolina. Does see Kansas City in week 8. Which is a great matchup, and then week 9, Las Vegas. So while we've seen a lot of good things out of Danny Dimes, we can expect some regression coming up, but I still like Danny Dimes on the season, man. I'm really happy to see him performing well, as I absolutely shitted on him in the offseason and had no faith in the Giants as a whole, but they've shown some fight in them. So, but nonetheless, man, I definitely want the Saints defense overall. And I have a good feeling I'm going to get Chuba Hubbard. But there's one team ahead of me who's been really, really struggling at an 0-3 position, who I know has been looking for running backs, and I've got a strong feeling that they're going to end up overall getting Chuba. But if not, man, I've got a good feeling about picking up Chuba as well. Chuba, I should say. Bossman Fan, who wins this trade? Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones and Julio Jones. This trade didn't happen, but me and my brother were spitballing trades. In terms of depth, I would argue that Aaron Jones and Julio Jones wins the trade, but overall, man, the value of Devontae Adams, I don't think can go unrecognized, right? So it's tough, man. I think Aaron Jones is a great running back. I mean, he's sitting at like RB2 right now, so we can't really debate that as well. Gosh, that is hard. That's a good trade to spitball, man. But overall, you could really argue either way, man. You really, really could. In terms of depth, of course, the Aaron Jones, Julio Jones combo is a little bit better. In terms of value, the Devontae Adams trade is unprecedented, as I think on the season, Devontae is going to be the wide receiver 1. He is my number 1 ranked receiver going into the season. There's still plenty of time for that to change, but right now, I love where Devontae Adams is at. And I wonder if where he is ranked overall. I want to go and check that. But yeah, Aaron Jones, let's check where Julio's at in terms of ranking. Yeah, he's pretty low. But A.J. Brown is out, and he's about to face the Jets, who have actually been pretty good against opposing receivers, and then Jacksonville. And then Buffalo, who've been great against opposing receivers right now. But let's check where Adams is at, man. Yeah, he's receiver number 8. So, I mean, not fantastic, but not awful by any means. I guess, and part of that has to do with week 1, right? Where he only put up like 8 to 10 points. I think on the season, though, the value of Devontae Adams is just, I just don't know if you can argue against it, man. Chase Brown. One last question. What should I do with Mitchell? Should I plan on dropping him with other running backs getting healthy soon? Would it help to see my team? Oh shoot, we just got sacked in Madden. Steven says, Steven, what is going on, brother? Happy to have you in the chat. Happy to have our co-host Steven up in the hizzy. Everyone give Steven a shout out. Good to see you as always, my guy. Steven and I are still trying to work out some of the logistics to get him on these live streams. We did some practice runs last night, and it was just coming out super laggy, but having Steven in on these live streams is definitely part of the plan, as well as I throw an interception and Madden in honor of Steven. But let's see here. Steven, I'm dropping Mitchell. The 49ers backfield is way too frustrating to break into your weekly projections and unpredictable. Jeff Wilson, the RB with most experience, will be back soon. Potentially try and trade Mitchell or let him go, as Chase Brown says. Thanks, Steven. I appreciate the help. Steven, yeah, let's just say Kyle Shanahan is a great coach and all, but a nightmare for fantasy owners. I don't disagree with that, man. I've been warning against this backfield from day one, and I still stand by that. Um, excuse me, but of course, the frustrating part is these running backs always have an opportunity to go absolutely crazy, but then the next week they probably won't, and then the next week they probably won't, and then week after that they probably will. I mean, it's just like they're so all over the place. But yeah, Jeff Wilson Jr. coming back is a big deal for you guys who own Niners running backs. But it's just a very, very hard backfield overall to keep track of, man. It's just tough. It truly, truly is, man. I don't like this backfield whatsoever, and I don't want anything to do with it. I mean, just so many running backs overall, and you just never know what's going to happen. It's like Steven says, extremely frustrating as a fantasy owner as a whole, right? Boss Ben Fat, he asked me to do Davante Adams and T.J. Hockenson for Aaron Jones, Fournette, and Higbee, but I'm bleeding at running back, so no chance in hell with the demon emojis. Oh my gosh, can we tackle Cooper Kupp? There we go. Man, I mean, yeah, if you're hurting at running back, then no. If you weren't hurting at running back, then I think it'd be a trade to consider. But yeah, if you're not doing well at running back, and if Fournette's in your starting lineup on a weekly basis, then yeah, I would still say no. I think Aaron Jones shows too much value to your roster overall. But if that wasn't the case, then yeah, I'd consider it just for Adams and the way Hawkinson's been playing, although he's coming off of a bad performance against the Rams. Steven says, def good move keeping Hawkinson's Jones. And Fournette has taken over that RB1 pretty strongly too, it seems. I mean, outside of Giovanni Bernard apparently being, I mean, that's what you've been waiting for. Oh, wait. It says I'm not bleeding at running back. You read it wrong. All good. Oh, crap. But I'm not bleeding at running back, so no chance in hell. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I mean, either way, man, if you don't have conviction in the trade, there's no point in doing it, man. If you like where your roster's at, I try to stay away from trades personally. I don't have a problem with them. I just stay away from them personally because I like standing by the guys that I drafted, whether whether I pay for it or not, and trying to use the waiver wire. I just hate the feeling of potentially helping out another roster and seeing the guys that I drafted beat me. But I don't have a problem with trades at all. I just I personally stay away from them unless I'm completely desperate and I'm dealing with an injury that I can't overcome, like I had to in my 20-man league. Let's see, Jace, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat, man. Happy to have you here in the live stream. Hope you are doing fantastic tonight. Should I trade Kittle and Monty for JT and Pitts? If you're asking me, no. I actually view Jonathan Taylor and Montgomery. Holy cow, did you guys see that catch by Noah Fant and Madden? What the hell was that? That was insane. I view them pretty similar fashion right now, Montgomery and Jonathan Taylor. And I think Kittle on the season is going to have a much better year than Kyle Pitts. So if you're asking for my opinion, I would not conduct that trade. If it was my roster, I would not do it. I actually like Montgomery on the season more than Jonathan Taylor, being that he doesn't really have any competition at running back, and Nyheim Hines is really starting to take away some of the value of Jonathan Taylor as a whole. But I still believe in Jonathan Taylor on the season, but I'd rather have Kittle than Pitts. So if you're asking me, I would stay away from that trade at the moment. All right, let's see. Bossman Fat had Montgomery and JT who are struggling, but I still have faith. Yeah, I like both of those guys too, man. And I have faith in both of those guys on the season as well. I truly, truly do. So I'm glad that you do as well. Chase Brown, the Daniel Jones owner just offered me his Madison for Herbert. Like what? LOL. Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes when you start to get into trades, um, unfortunately, sometimes you get some bad pushback as well. Boss Man Fat, I'm going to leave now. Thanks for answering my questions. Of course, man. Happy to have you in the chat. Happy that you stopped by for a bit tonight. Hope you have a great night, man. Appreciate you as always, my guy. Steven, starting to feel Justin Fields will be worse for Montgomery as he will also take away from those red zone touches, and man, that Bears offense is sketchy. I might be selling Allen Robinson here shortly. I don't disagree, but Matt Nagy has basically said that Nick Foles could start next week, Andy Dalton could start, or Justin Fields could start. And honestly, if you're asking me, the best thing for David Montgomery would be if Nick Foles started. I think he might actually be the best quarterback right now for that organization. I don't know. I mean, I wanted Andy Dalton to be good on the season, but I don't think he's going to be. And with that being said, wow, that was the dumbest sack I've ever seen in Madden. I don't know if you guys just saw that. Yeah, I think Justin Fields needs more time to sit, and I would like to see a better offensive line in front of him before he's thrown out to the Wolves again. But who knows what's going to happen. I don't necessarily disagree with that sentiment, Stephen, but I just still have faith in David Montgomery, and I hope that a quarterback goes out there and can play well and help out my guy Montgomery, who I put so much faith in the offseason, right? Let's see here. Evan Harrison, I'm trading Cooks for Montgomery because I think he'll break out. Yeah, I think that's a good call, man. I like that call. I think it gives you good value at the running back position. If you're comfortable in the rest of your receivers, I think it's a good receiver to ship at the moment. Although, I think Cooks is going to have a good season as a whole. But yeah, if you're confident in our guy Montgomery and you have conviction in him, then I think it's a good trade, man. Eric, what is going on, brother? Hope you're doing well, man. Happy to have you in the chat tonight. Henderson, Will Fuller, and Michael Carter for Mixon. Holy cow. A lot of capital for one player. But honestly, if you're comfortable with having 2 open roster spots and you think you can glue that up through the waiver wire, then I think it's a good call overall, man. I think you're shipping a couple guys while they're kind of at higher value or potential value, right? Michael Carter's gotten a little bit of buzz lately. Will Fuller, people are kind of seeing the potential of what he could do on the season. And Henderson being injured, I think, is a good player to ship at the moment. But I would say if you're going to ship 3 players, even if it's for a high-value player like Joe Mixon, initially still try and get one more player out of that, right? So if you can get just someone of value out of that and do a 3 for 2, I think that's going to be better for your roster as a whole. And if you can't, then just make sure you have 2 players lined up on the waiver wire that you are ready to add, that you have conviction in right away. But I don't think that's a bad trade. That's the first 3 for 1 I've really seen this season that I'm like, yeah, I'm semi-okay with that. Yeah, I think Joe Mixon's going to have a good year, man. So I don't hate that trade by any means. Litsky, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat. Hope you're having a great night, man. Hope you've had a good week so far. Happy to have you here, as always, my guy. Who can I get with Henderson and Robert Woods? I need a tight end or receiver. I've been hearing a lot more buzz about TJ Hawkinson being on the trading block. I think he's a good tight end to target in terms of value, as well as Tyler Higbee. I think if you need a tight end, those are 2 good guys to target. And when it comes to receivers, there's all kinds of receivers you can trade for at this point in time. DK Metcalf's been coming up a lot in terms of a trade target. Calvin Ridley's been coming up a lot, as well as Stephon Diggs. So I would say those couple of tight ends and receivers would be good targets for you. And I would be okay shipping Henderson and Robert Woods for one of those guys, but try and make sure you have someone lined up in terms of the waiver wire, right? In terms of someone you can add right away who you do feel like gives you good value. I think that there's plenty of players out there at this point in time in most leagues that would do so. But yeah, I mean, those are a couple guys. Let me know if you want any further clarification there, or any further players to look for as well. Let's see. Steven says, I see Mixon trade as being relatively fair. Will Fuller isn't super valuable to this point, and even though Carter is taking over RB1 role, this Jets offense looks horrendous, and their O-line is beat up. I 100% agree with that. Biggest concern is I like Henderson. Sucks having to move off him, but I can understand any concerns you may have on him. Yeah, I don't disagree with that either, but I do think the upgrade in terms of Joe Mixon, makes it a little bit more valuable in terms of an RB1. And, this injury to Henderson, a little bit concerning with Sony Michel coming in. And I think the other concerning part with Henderson, who I still love on the season, we're big fans of D10. He's here at the catch. I bet the bigger concern is that the Rams just don't need to run the football at all, right? As we're seeing in Madden, they can just pass the football all day long and score touchdowns. It's pretty coincidental, as Robert Woods is the one to score. But anyways, man, in all seriousness, yeah, they just they don't need to hand the football off a lot to win football games. That might change, but at this point in time, I don't know if it's going to. So, yeah, I think the upgrade in terms of Joe Mixon is going to be a little bit better on the season. But I still really like Darrell Henderson and his capability and his value on the season as well. But I do think it's a good time to ship him if you are going to do so. All right, let's see here. Michael Brantley, what is going on, man? Hope you are doing well. Happy to have you in the stream tonight. To any of the new faces out there, man, hope you guys consider becoming part of the Catch fam and subscribing down below. But nonetheless, we do appreciate you guys just being in the stream. And for all of you familiar faces, go ahead and smash that like button so we can get this stream and new viewers. Good old YouTube algorithm as well. But nonetheless, I do just appreciate you guys being in the stream and throwing me some fantasy Q&A for the night. Should I start Allaire or James Robinson this week? It's a good question, man. Two kind of frustrating backs to own at this point in time, right? I mean, I've got Robinson in both my leagues, and I'm starting him at this point in time in both my leagues, although I don't really have too much of a choice. He's got a pretty decent matchup against Cincinnati, right? Who's been playing pretty good defensively, but hasn't been playing that great against opposing running backs, right? And in terms of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, one of the most frustrating running backs in all of fantasy football, pretty good matchup against Philadelphia. He's the 24th ranked team against opposing running backs right now. But man, he's been fumbling that ball he's lost 2 fumbles, or 1 fumble in the last 2 games, right? So 2 fumbles lost in a row, right? But he's got the better matchup, right? But I'm still kind of scared about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And Robinson really just had his first good week. So it's a tough call there. But I think that the Jaguars are realizing they need to lean on the running game more. And the Kansas City Chiefs are still the Kansas City Chiefs, man. But overall, I'm a little bit concerned about where they are on the season. So that's a tough call. And the Kansas City Chiefs might be realizing that they need some more stability and that they need to run the football as well. I can certainly see both of those guys getting in the end zone, but that's a very tough call. I view both those guys in pretty similar fashion, right? Being kind of underutilized, and their offense isn't really utilizing them at all correctly. So I'd be interested to get some of your guys' feedback in the chat on that one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire or James Robinson this week. Steven, I'd be interested to get your input there as well, because for me, I'm kind of just flipping a coin between those guys. So we'll see if we can get some more feedback for you, Michael, because that's a tough one for me. Litsky, appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. Absolutely, man. Appreciate you being in the stream tonight, and I'm doing fantastic. So just appreciate you being out here and giving us some fantasy Q&A as always, my guy. All right, Streak, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat. Happy to have you here as always, my guy. Hope all is well, and thank you for being here. We always appreciate a true member of the Catch fam. So let's see. Would you do Amari Gibson Pitts for Kelsey and Hunt? I already got Mahomes, so then I'll have the stack. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to advise against trading for Travis Kelsey, man. If you can stack those two guys, although Kansas, a little bit of turmoil up there in Kansas City, right? Out there in Kansas City, I should say, right? But nonetheless, man, I still believe in Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey on this season. And I think you can swap Hunt out for Gibson. So I don't think it hurts you too much. I mean, you're losing Amari Cooper, who has a high ceiling every week, but also has a little bit of bust potential every week, right? He's kind of a boomer bust type player. So I don't hate that trade. I would just try and make sure, as long as you're confident in your receivers as a whole, or, having a receiver available on the waiver wire right away, to replace Amari Cooper, and especially since you're doing a 3 for 2. I don't hate that trade, man. I really don't. I mean, you're getting the best tight end in the league, so I don't hate that whatsoever, man. Senior Cinnabon, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat. Hope you're doing fantastic tonight. Always great to have you here, my guy. Is it worth trading Emmanuel Sanders for Julio Jones? Trading low for Julio. Steven says, if you can get Julio for Sanders, that's a good deal for you, especially with A.J. Brown's struggle and his injury. Tannehill has positive regression in his future, too. Yeah, I don't hate that trade by any means, as I just threw a ball directly to Jalen Ramsey. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I think it's a good trade, man. And yeah, Julio's going to have a good, I'm going to assume at least 2 weeks coming up here, man. Some good matchups while A.J. Brown is presumed to be out, right? So, I mean, it's weird because the Jets are technically the third best team against opposing receivers right now, but I just still feel like they're not even close to that. So, technically speaking, it's a bad matchup, but I think there's some good momentum there. Then he's got Jacksonville, which is a good matchup. So, if he's the number one receiver against the Jets and against Jacksonville, I think that's good. Then he's got a bad matchup against Buffalo, but then he flips around and sees Kansas City and Indianapolis, which are good matchups, right? So, yeah, I don't think it's the worst trade ever. But I still like Sanders where he's at right now. But the problem there is with Sanders, there's so many weapons on the Buffalo Bills offense that it's going to be hard to keep track of who's going to be the most consistent on a weekly basis, right? And in terms of Julio Jones, he's going to be the wide receiver number one no matter what. So he's in kind of a better position as a whole. So, yeah, I think it's a good trade overall as you're going to get a little bit more consistency out of our guy, Julio Jones. All right, I can't talk about my waivers anymore because Steven's in here and he might steal my waivers. But I feel pretty good about them. Steven, don't rewind this stream later and listen to my waivers. They don't really matter. But nonetheless, man, I have got to get a dub in my 12-man league, mine and Steven's 12-man league, I should say, this week. I can't deal with another loss, man. If I have another loss, I'm going to go insane. So I think I'm at a good spot with these waivers. I'm projected to lose by like 20 points. But honestly, when I'm looking through the matchups, I think I'm in a good spot, man. My opponent's receivers are pretty stacked, though. And he's got Kamara, right? But Fournette at New England, man, Sanders at Kansas City is actually a scary matchup. LeBron's brain, what is going on, man? Sup, Catch? I may or may not have been drunk Sunday night and traded Diggs and Carson for Julio, Chubb, Emmanuel Sanders, and Pittman. Thoughts? It's not the worst trade to make while drunk, ever. I mean, I think you're getting a pretty decent trade-off between Carson and Chubb. And while Diggs is probably the more valuable receiver, out of all three of those guys, you're still getting very good depth at the receiver position. So, yeah, I don't think it's that bad of a trade to make, man. Yeah, Senior Cinnabon coming in, honestly, that's not a bad trade. The amount of depth that you're getting at the receiver position is probably going to benefit you on the season. And then in terms of the running back handoff, I don't think that's too bad of a change, honestly. I view those guys in pretty similar fashion. And I'm actually higher on Nick Chubb on the season, although Carson's been playing a little bit more consistent, a little bit better on the season. I still like Nick Chubb a little bit more. Stephen Drunk trades the best trades. Yeah, I don't hate that trade, man. It could have been a lot worse. I'll put it that way. So yeah, I don't think it's that bad of a trade, in my opinion. So definitely, maybe try not to make trades under the influence. But in this, circumstance, I think it may have benefited you. So maybe we should do more drunk trades. Steven, feel like the Cardinals were more drunk when they traded Hopkins for David Johnson. Our Texans were more drunk, I meant to say. Yeah, that's a good point too, man. Well, overall, uh, wow. What was Texans head coach's name? Wow, why can't I think of his name? What was Texans head coach that got fired? Oh my gosh, I literally cannot remember his name. Someone please tell me the ex Texans head coach name because I can't remember it. LeBron's brain, I should get drunk more often. Was it Bill O'Brien? Was that his name? I'm gonna have to Google it. It's like I'm having one of those moments where it's hurting my head. It is Bill O'Brien, right? Okay, it was Bill O'Brien. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Bill O'Brien probably drank a lot of like whiskey while he was managing. Uh, so, anyways, man, as thank you, Stephen, for confirming Bill O'Brien. LeBron's brain, I should get drunk more often. Senior Cinnabon, maybe. I now have Rick Dennison. Says LeBron Brains. Rick Dennison is the senior offensive advisor for Minnesota Vikings. Who is that? Oh man, good stuff tonight, guys. Those were two statements combined. Yeah, but honestly, man, I don't think that trade is that bad. I truly, truly don't. Yeah, I'm a little scared I'm going to take another loss in my 12-man league. I thought the guy you're talking about was Rick Dennison. Oh, no. I was trying to think of Bill O'Brien. Didn't he get fired from the Texans? Probably. I think just about anyone and everyone's gotten fired for not getting the vaccine. Yeah, didn't I think you're right. I think you're right on that. Or he like agreed to leave, right? Something like that, man. I'm tracking you, LeBron. LeBron's praying. I'm tracking you, bro. Steven says, how about that Alexander Madison baby? Yeah, he had a good game. Although you benched him, Steven. You didn't even start him. But you didn't need to. Steven put up like 180 fantasy points over the weekend. Uh, so everyone congratulate Steven as I throw an interception in honor of Steven once again. Steven got his first fantasy dub on the on the on the season. So congrats to Steven, guys. Everyone, round of applause. I took two more fantasy L's. Senior Cinnabon, are you drunk right now? More drunk trades to come. Maybe, man. Maybe, maybe, maybe. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go through some notes here. All right, QB must starts for the week. Or at least we're just going to look at, Steve and I are going to do some actual must starts throughout the week. But in terms of the best schedules, I do just want to make you guys kind of aware of who's got the best schedules, look or for week 4 here. So, but Steve and I have got some stuff planned for the week, so we'll hold off in terms of quote unquote must starts, right? But the Bills facing Houston Texans this week. They've played a little bit better overall than a lot of people are realizing. They've actually played pretty well up front against opposing running backs. But in terms of the passing game, the Bills are facing the Houston Texans this week, so those are going to be, really good matchups overall. I think that the Buccaneers are going to have a pretty good week against the New England Patriots, if you're asking me. It's going to be a great game. I'm very excited to watch that game, Sunday Night Football, man. The Seahawks have got the San Francisco 49ers. Could be a pretty juicy matchup, man. Cardinals have got the Rams. A lot of people are looking to exploit that matchup, but I don't think it's going to be that great, honestly. So Justin Herbert and the Chargers are facing, not just Justin Herbert, right? Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. I mean, Chargers overall are facing the Raiders, and the way the Chargers are playing right now, I think there's going to be some good matchups we can exploit there. Jalen Hurts facing Kansas City. I like that matchup. I like the Eagles. I don't want to say I like the Eagles because I really think that Jalen Hurts is the only player you can kind of exploit there in terms of consistency. But Bengals have got Jacksonville. I would start your Bengals players this week. Let's see. In my other league, Chase Brown, I need a better RB2 than Gaskins. My wide receivers are Ridley and Cooper. Should I try trading one of them? And so, which running back should I target? If you're asking me, man, I wouldn't trade either of those guys right now. If you're asking me, I would really try to hold on to. Well, I'd like to see the rest of your roster before I make any claims there. LeBron's brain. I now have I don't know what I was saying. I now have Juju, Boyd, Higgins, Julio, Gallup, Sanders, Curtis Samuel on IR, and Pittman, all wide receivers. Yeah, you're definitely stacked at the receiver position, which can happen pretty easily, being that there's so many good receivers in the National Football League. I mean, you've got Boyd and Higgins, man. I mean, you can look to make another trade and ship one or two of those guys, as it's probably going to not just be impossible to start all of them on a weekly basis, but it's also probably going to start to annoy you, being that you're going to have really good players on your bench on a weekly basis, and it's also probably going to annoy you in terms of it's going to be hard to decide, who to start on a weekly basis as well. So if you were looking for another trade, probably wouldn't be the worst idea overall, man. Let's see. The Raiders had the Chargers. Not on paper, it's not the best matchup, but I would look to potentially exploit some of those. I think it's going to be a shootout, in my humble opinion. So I think that both Raiders and Chargers players this week are going to be good starts as well. Chase Brown, I got you. Yeah, man. Let me know. I'd like to see the rest of your roster before I advise on that one. Steven, thankfully, I don't know why I keep saying hoo-hoo or trying to say Julio, or I don't know what I'm doing. Juju. Oh, yeah, we just won this game of Madden, baby. Thankfully, Juju just has bruised ribs. Maybe those 19 targets to Najee will move to Juju. Yeah, it's possible, man. Yeah, good week for our guy, Najee Harris, finally, man. Happy to see him finally really take off and be that type of fantasy running back that we've been waiting on, man. Matt, what is up, man? Hope you are doing fantastic tonight. Happy to have you in the stream, man. Hope all is well. If you're new here, man, hope you consider subscribing and becoming part of the Catch fan. But nonetheless, man, we appreciate you just being out here showing some support tonight. Should I start the Broncos D versus the Ravens this week, or should I rock the Saints? I would rock the New Orleans Saints, man. They are the #1 fantasy defense at this given time, and they have got a pretty good matchup this week, right? Overall, they've got the Giants, right? Then they've got the Washington football team next week. Then they've got a bye week. So if you're asking me, man, I would hold on to the Broncos if you can. If you can have both of those defenses, then I would hold on to both of them because they're two of the best defenses in all of fantasy football right now. So I would hold on to them, man. And I would rather start the Saints this week, as I do think they are going to have a much better week overall. It's going to be interesting to see. The Broncos have faced some pretty good teams offensively, but I do think the Ravens are probably the best team that they've faced all season long. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform. But this defensive unit for the Denver Broncos does look legit, man. But if you're asking me, I would roll with the Saints for the week. All right, LeBron's brain. Who should I trade for? Brains equal off. Man, I'd probably have to see the rest of your roster, to be honest. But really, if you can ship two of those guys and get a valuable running back or maybe a stud tight end, or if you're hurting at the quarterback position, I mean, you've just got, well, here, see, my lineup is actually terrible because of injuries. I have Dak, Chubb, Taylor, all those wide receivers, Hawkinson, and CEH. Who should I try and trade for? I mean, it never hurts to get another running back. I mean, why not? If you've got some uncertainty in some of those running backs, I don't think that it hurts to go ahead and trade for another running back, man. I think you're going to probably start Dak all season long and maybe stream a receiver when he's on bye week. But, yeah, if you're asking me, I would try and score another running back. I mean, I like Hawkinson right now, so I don't think you need to try and put too much into a tight end. You could probably stream another tight end on the season if you need to. So, yeah, I would look for another running back if I were you. Especially if you can ship two of those guys, right? That would be my recommendation at the moment. Steven Scott. I like the Saints defense a lot. Giants are a good matchup with Shepard and Slayton down. Yeah, I agree with that at the moment as well, man. Always good to get our co-host Steven's feedback as well. Like I said, we're working on getting Steven into the live streams also. Steven, I wonder how much you like the Saints defense, if they're a potential waiver wire of yours or not. Let's see. Chase Brown, I'm 1-2 somehow. Let me get back up here. You've got Hurts, Kamara, Gaskin, Ridley, Cooper, Waller, Shepard. Cardinals defense, Tucker benches Damien Harris, Boyd, Antonio Brown, McKissick, Tyson, Williams, Moore, Mooney, and Judy. Yeah, it's a weird world. You can be completely stacked and still lose some fantasy games as well. Yeah, at that point, man, I mean, Shepard's down for you. Your running backs, I mean, I think Damien Harris is a good enough RB2, don't you think? But nonetheless, man, and Tyson Williams most weeks can be an RB2 as well. I would look to ship Gaskin if you're asking me. I would say Gaskin and one of those receivers, like maybe a Tyler Boyd or an AB, even Mooney, as the Bears are looking to decline right now. Those would be the guys I would try and trade. I would hold on to Ridley and Cooper if I were you. And yeah, I would feel pretty confident Damien Harris is my RB2 as long as he's not facing the Saints again, who he played awful against. And I like Williams and McKissick being there as well. Though, I mean, I know Williams coming off a very bad game. But, yeah, man. I wouldn't ship Ridley or Cooper. And I would consider shipping Gaskin if you're asking me. All right, let's see here. Matt, cool, man. Just appreciate that, my guy. Truly, truly do appreciate you becoming part of the Catch fam. What about dropping Rondell Moore for Josh Gordon or Rashaw Bateman? If you're asking me, I would hold off at the moment. Listen, man, we need to see Josh Gordon be elevated from the practice squad and actually do something before we start adding him, if you're asking me. And in terms of Rashaw Bateman, well, I think he's a good stash. Moore has still proven more on the season, no pun intended. So I would hold off there for the time being. And I mean, I think Bateman could be a good stash, but I would look to drop someone who has far less value. I know Moore is coming off of a bad, very, very disappointing week. He was like our must-start flex position player, right? And he did not show up whatsoever. But yeah, on the week, man, I would stick with, or not on the week, but in general, I would stick with Rondell Moore, as he's already proven something, right? Bateman, I think, can break out. Don't get me wrong, but after the way Hollywood Brown and the rest of those receivers played against the Lions, I mean, especially Hollywood Brown, just dropping balls left and right in the end zone. Oh my gosh, they need a true receiver to step up. 100%. So I like the idea of adding Bateman, but I wouldn't drop more for him at this point in time. So yeah, that's where I stand with that one, man. But yeah, I think Bateman is a player that we need to monitor pretty heavily. LeBron's brain. What running back could I get Pittman 1-for-1 with, or add Higgins for a bundle? That's a good question, man. Let's think about this one. Let's go to some notes. Let's pull up the notes. Man, if Saquon's out there, why not? I think Chris Carson and Saquon are good targets at the running back position right now. David Montgomery is a good target, and Joe Mixon. I mean, if it's going to depend. I think you'll probably have to do a bundle deal to get those guys for sure. But I think that Pittman and Higgins, you're going to have to look at what teams need receivers in your league. But those are kind of your top kind of candidates that I just went over, in terms of fantasy football right now. So I think maybe Antonio Gibson, if he might be out there as well, is another good candidate. But I would look to what teams in your league need receivers and kind of evaluate it based off of that. Matt, pun taken. Fair enough. Yeah, I had Hollywood starting. It was horrible. Yeah. He's looked so good through, weeks 1 and week 2. And then in week 3, it was like, what the hell is happening, man? I mean, it was super frustrating. I own Lamar in mine and Steven's 12-man league, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, dude. He looked like a deer in the headlights, right? Very frustrated. And now it just, as soon as we were starting to trust Hollywood Brown and he gets a great matchup against the Lions, he kind of turns on us, right? So, very, very frustrating. Chase Brown. What about Gaskin and Body? I'm assuming that's Boyd. Yeah, Boyd. For CEH. I don't hate that trade. I'm still kind of hesitant on CEH. But in terms of shipping 2 guys and getting another good value running back to add to your roster and looking at the rest of your receivers, I don't hate that trade. But, man, I think you have pretty solid RB2s in Tyson Williams and Damien Harris. So, I think that's a pretty decent trade. I don't dislike that. But I wouldn't lose faith in Tyson Williams or Damien Harris as well. So I wouldn't give up too much, but I think that's pretty even overall. Steven says maybe you could get Kareem Hunt for a Pittman trade if the owner needed a wide receiver. Yeah, that's a good. I think Kareem Hunt's a good trade target right now as well. I think he's probably going to be all season long, as he's not always the most consistent. But yeah, I think that's a good point as well, Steven. Chase Brown, Boyd, sorry. Yeah, you're good, man. You don't need to say sorry. I just want to make sure I was, following and making sure I was making the right recommendation based off of that. So no worries, my guy. No worries whatsoever. Matt, all right, one more quick one. Would you rather have Kirk or Rondell Moore? I can drop Moore for Kirk on my bitch. It's like flipping a coin between those two guys all season long. I was very sold on Rondale Moore last week, and now I'm very scared of starting him, right? I still like both of them a lot. Christian Kirk had the better game last week. But this is going to be another team that's just very hard in terms of they have so many offensive weapons, right? On the season, Christian Kirk's been the better player. I think that Jalen's probably going to be all over D-Hop in week 4 here. So it's a tough call. But you're really just flipping that coin. As I see Steven saying, Kirk and Moore are going to flip-flop week to week, but think Moore has way bigger upside and is lightning in the bottle. He is also a fan favorite, and they spent draft capital on him. Yeah, apparently the story is Kyler Murray is watching highlights of him during the draft and sent it to their owner and was like, let's draft this guy. And that's why they drafted Rondale Moore, is apparently off of text that Kyler Murray sent their owner, which I think is pretty dope. But yeah, he is a big fan as well. He's a fan favorite as well. I like both of them, but it's a tough call, man. We'll get back to that in a second. Aaron Reborn, what is going on, man? Hope you are doing fantastic tonight. Happy to have you in the stream, man. Hope you consider becoming part of the catch by subscribing down below. But nonetheless, man, we just appreciate you showing support and asking some fantasy Q&A tonight. So let's get to the question. What QB do you think I can get with a trade of Bridgewater, Cordell Patterson, and Shepard? Probably a pretty decent quarterback, man. Maybe a Josh Allen. I think Patterson and Shepard, when healthy, are pretty valuable right now. And Teddy Two Gloves within himself, also pretty valuable on the season as well, right? So I would look to see what teams out there need wide receiver and running back, right? And maybe what teams have some good value, already at the quarterback position. Probably going to have to look for a team that has 2 quarterbacks so that they will be, overall pretty confident at the quarterback position, right? But I think Josh Allen's still a good trade candidate right now. Outside of that, man, I'm pulling up the notes now, trying to see if I've got anyone listed here. All right, let's see here, man. Justin Herbert's still QB 13 on the year, man. At least after last week. So I think he might be a good trade candidate. I don't know if you'll actually get Josh Allen realistically, right? I think Jalen Hurts is a good trade candidate right now as well. So I would kind of mess around with those guys. Let me know what you think about those recommendations. If you're going to put up those 3 players, I would try and get a top 8 quarterback who's not maybe performing the best right now. So you may have missed the mark on Josh Allen, but I think Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert just above that value are pretty good. I like Jalen Hurts. I like Derek Carr and Matthew Stafford. So I would go out there and try and get a pretty good value at the moment, man, honestly. Let me know if you want any more clarification on that. Let's see here. LeBron's brain. Do I try and go for Henderson? If you have the conviction, why not, man? I don't hate trying to add Henderson by any means. Senior Cinnabon. Okay, thanks, Steven. Thank you, Steven. We appreciate you, man. Steven, Moore is a great player, but it's just so hard to predict who will be the guy. A.J. Green has even looked good back-to-back weeks. A.J. Green, LOL. Good point. Yeah, A.J. Green had over 130 receiving yards last week. What the hell? I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. Real good. It's who do you think I should add on this trade besides Galladay? Or with Galladay, my team is Lamar, Zeke, Aaron Jones, James Robinson, Allen Robinson, T.J. Hawkinson, Will Fuller. Who should I add on to this? Man, if you can ship Will Fuller, I don't hate it. I know you've got conviction in him, man, so I don't want to talk you into trading him. But if you can get a valuable enough player, I think Allen Robinson is worth trading right now. as well as Galladay. If you can ship both of those guys, I think they're worth shipping. I would like to do a package deal with both of those guys. Let me know what you think about that, Real Gooded. Dumpster Kevin, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat tonight. Hope you're doing fantastic. Start 3 in PPR. Debo, DK, Beasley, Chase, or Tim Patrick? Good question, good question, good question. Honestly, man, I would roll with DK, Chase, and Tim Patrick right now. Although I think Cole Beasley's going to have a very good week as well. So that's a tough call, man. Yeah, I think that's a good call, man. All right, let's see here. Aaron Reborn, I joined the fam. Also, LOL, would Kelsey for Hurts and Hopkins be a good trade? Appreciate you joining the Catch fam, man. Hope you continue to come out to the live streams and look through the regular videos. So we truly appreciate that support, man. Congrats on becoming part of the Catch fam. We truly do appreciate you, man. Let's see here. Real Goated, his wide receivers are Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, and Amari Cooper. I would try and get DK out of those guys, man. And if you can't, I would try for Mike Evans next. Dumpster Kevin, start 2 in PPR. Robinson, Gaskin, Montgomery, or Miles Sanders. Honestly, man, I'm scared of Montgomery this week. I'm starting him in my 12-man league because I have to, but I'm scared of the Bears as a whole. Miles Sanders has the best matchup out of all those guys, but I'm higher on Montgomery and Robinson. I'm higher on both of them over Gaskins, and Miles Sanders has the best matchup out of those guys. Keep 2 on the roster, PPR. Cousins, Teddy, Carr, or Darnold. Honestly, man, I'm rolling with Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, but I mean, Cousins has been secretly really good on the season. All those guys have, right? But I think Derek Carr is actually the best out of them. Teddy Two Gloves looks amazing, man, but statistically, from a fantasy perspective, he's been good. He just hasn't been as good as some of those other guys. And I really do like Sam Darnold, but if it was my roster, I'd roll with Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. Kenobi, why does PPR matter for QBs? Dumpster said, good point, thanks. I mean, yeah, it is, it doesn't hurt to let me know what format you're playing in, but I guess it doesn't necessarily matter for quarterbacks. And Jason Kenobi says to keep Carr. Yeah, I don't necessarily, I definitely agree with keeping Derek Carr at the moment. Evan Harrison, I'm still fairly new. Not if you do, but a Monday night or Tuesday night post-week analysis would be pretty cool, if not much work. Yeah, we can work that in, man. We've kind of been doing something similar to that to some degree, where Sunday night we hop on the live stream and we kind of go over Sunday as a whole, and then Monday night we hop on and we're kind of discussing Monday as a whole while going over the end of the Monday night game, and then Tuesday we're here kind of just gearing up for the next week. But that's definitely something that we will take into consideration. Anytime you guys have feedback about what you would like to see on the channel, what would be most helpful to you guys, please let us know, man, because we're putting a lot of work into this channel and this community as a whole, and we always want to improve it. So certainly if you guys have recommendations about what's going to be the most helpful for you guys, let us know. And yeah, I will take that into consideration, and see how we can emphasize that a little bit more. But yeah, on generally speaking, on Sunday nights, I hop on and kind of go over Sunday for the day, not just from a fantasy perspective, but from a football perspective as well. But I get that Sunday's a long day for a lot of people, a lot of good relaxation, a lot of people not necessarily wanting to hop on Sunday night. Some people might be just wanting to enjoy the end of the game by themselves, which I totally understand. The last 2 weeks for me hopping on Sunday, it's just been like, oh my gosh, what has happened? My team has performed awful. Can you guys give me some support? But yeah, I do like to give some analysis on Sunday night. Then on Monday night, we are kind of recapping the week as a whole as we watch, the end of the Monday night game. And then, yeah, Tuesday night, we've kind of been hopping right into the next week. So I'll take that into consideration, and I truly appreciate that feedback, Evan. So let me know, in the future, anytime you guys have specific things that you'd like to see, and we'll see how we can get that worked in overall as well. Rio Gooden. So should I do Lamar Jackson, Will Fuller, and Kenny Golladay for DK and Mike Evans, because his receivers are Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, and Amari Cooper, or should I do that trade with just DK? I mean, initially, I would try and get both receivers because you never know. And if you can get both of them, then yeah, it's going to be a better trade. But if you get some pushback from that, then I would kind of change to just whichever two of those receivers you have more conviction in. But I would say, if he's looking, sorry, I'm trying to phrase this correctly, right? If he's not looking to do that first trade, then you should take one of those players off, one of the receivers off, right? So at that point, you'd just be trading Lamar Jackson and or Will Fuller, or Lamar Jackson, Will Fuller, and or Kenny Golladay. Or I'm not phrasing that right. So Lamar Jackson and one of the two other receivers, Will Fuller or Kenny Golladay, for just DK Metcalf. But the initial trade, I think, is okay. Lamar Jackson, Will Fuller, and Kenny Golladay for DK Metcalf and Mike Evans. If you get a rebuttal on that, then and you're only going to get one receiver, then I think that's okay. But you either take off Kenny Golladay or Will Fuller, and then you try and make a retrade. Hope I didn't mess up my phrasing too much there, and let me know if you need further clarification on that, Rio Gooden. But yeah, overall, I think that trade is fine. Chase Brown, would you trade away Boyd and Tyson Williams for A.J. Brown? Okay, let's see. It's my league with Ridley and Cooper, but when Brown comes back, that would get a nasty three-headed wide receiver monster. Yeah, I mean, looking at that roster earlier, I think you still have the value in Damien Harris to be able to trade away Tyson Williams. Honestly, man, I mean, I don't want to talk you out of players that you have high conviction in, but if it were me, I would try to trade Gaskin and Boyd first and keep Tyson Williams. But if you can't, then yeah, I'm okay with that trade, man. I think it's a good thought overall for your roster. So yeah, I don't hate that trade by any means. I just saw he is likely to trade for A.J. Brown, so I figured why not try and get him, LOL. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that trade. I truly don't. So I don't think it's awful by any means. All right, I'm going to see if I can score a touchdown here in Madden. All right, let's see. Nick Brandon. What do you think about T. Higgins versus Julio Jones as a wide receiver, too? I like both of them a lot, but I kind of have, for some reason, better conviction in T. Higgins when healthy, right? I mean, he's not healthy right now, but I view them in actual kind of similar fashion as a whole. But right now, while A.J. Brown is out, Julio Jones is a more valuable receiver as he's the receiver one on that team. So they're both very good wide receiver twos when, either A.J. Brown is healthy or T. Higgins is healthy in general. But at the moment, I mean, Julio Jones is the more valuable receiver, right? Let's see here. Steven says A.J. Brown could be a nice snag. Buy low. Def try Gaskin first. And Jason Kenobi says Gaskin over Tyson any day. Fair enough, man. I'm happy to get your guys' feedback too on who you have conviction in. I never want to talk you guys out of trading players that you do have conviction for. I would personally rather have Tyson. Gaskin's looking around RB34 at the moment. Tyson is coming off of a bad performance against the Lions. So it's a tough call. I would personally rather have Williams, but I don't have a problem with wanting Gaskin either. Let's see. Williams is sitting at RB26, right? So it's still not great overall, and he's coming off a very bad performance. But I also have more faith as a whole in the Baltimore Ravens. So, whoever you had the most conviction is definitely important. But for me, I would roll with Tyson. But if it's Gaskin, then I'm not upset with that either. Chase Brown, Gaskin and Boyd for A.J. Brown, or just Gaskin for A.J.? I think you might have to put both of those guys in the conversation. If it was me, I would be okay with Gaskin and Boyd for A.J. Brown. But that's just me personally. If you can get it to where it's just Gaskin for A.J., then that's, of course, going to benefit you more. So you should always try with a worse a worse trade for your opponent first. So, yeah. All right, let's see. Steven says, Julio over T. Higgins is coming off injury, and Julio will be playing as a wide receiver 1 if A.J. Brown injuries keep up. Yeah, see, I agree with that, too, that at the moment, Julio is the more valuable player based off of the injury. So 100% agree with Steven there. LeBron's brain thinking about Higgins, Pittman for Montgomery, and I just don't know. You've got a shit ton of receivers, so I don't think it's going to hurt you too much on the season, man. I like Montgomery, man, and I understand the hesitancy. And I think it has more to do with the Bears offense than it really has to do with David Montgomery. I am worried about this Bears offense, I'm not going to lie. And I am a David Montgomery owner who I'm going to continue to start him and show conviction in him. But I could definitely understand being a little bit hesitant as a whole on David Montgomery as I throw another interception in Madden. What's new there? Teddy Two Gloves misses the tackle. We just threw a pick 6. But, oh well, just Madden. Evan Harrison is Josh Jacobs at RB2 when healthy. I think so. The amount of touches we saw him get in week 1, definitely promising. The amount of red zone touches we saw him get in week 1, definitely promising. The amount of touches Peyton Barber got last week against Miami Dolphins shows how much John Gruden wants to run the football. I'm still a fan of Josh Jacobs. He's just injured. So if you're asking me if he was on my roster, I would start him when healthy on a weekly basis and not have any really real hesitancy around it. The way the Raiders are playing, man, it only adds to his value as well. Chase Brown, let's see. You aren't worried about Tyson's bad week and those other running backs getting more and more touches. It's a fair argument for sure. He definitely had a bad week, but I think the Ravens had a bad week as a whole, in my opinion. Of course, those other running backs are going to, potentially take away touches, and there's a lot of running backs on that team, and Lamar Jackson runs the football. So I don't, think that's the worst argument by any means whatsoever. But I still like, in terms of Tyson versus Gaskin, I would still rather have Tyson Williams at this point in time. But it's a fair argument by all means, for sure. Nick Brandon, I might try to bundle Melvin Gordon and T. Higgins for a better running back, or maybe I just need to be happy with how Gordon is playing. Gordon's actually playing not too bad right now. And it's kind of frustrating me being a Javonte Williams owner, right? So I don't hate that thought either. Melvin Gordon's like RB11 right now, believe it or not. He's got a pretty good matchup coming here against the Baltimore Ravens right now. Tough matchup following week against Pittsburgh, and then he's got Las Vegas, then another couple of tough matchups. Cleveland, Washington football team, Dallas, and then he's got Philly in week 10. So I think we're going to get a true sense of what type of running back Melvin Gordon's going to be on the season in the coming weeks. So might actually be a good time to try and ship him, because I think he's going to start to struggle a little bit after week 4. I think he's got a good matchup this week. And then he's got some pretty tough matchups, man. So, I think it might be a good time to ship him, but I also like him on the season. So, it's a tough call. I like the Broncos on the season, and I like their strength of schedule overall. But right now, their strength of schedule is looking pretty difficult in comparison to what we saw in the preseason/offseason, right? So, it might be a good time to ship him, right? If you can get a good enough value running back, he's got a little bit of an easier strength of schedule overall. All right, let's see if we can't get a first down in Madden. First down is Sutton. Okay. Real good. And I'm in another league, and someone made a huge trade. He traded Austin Eckler and Julio Jones for Zeke. Do you think that was a good trade for him? No. I like Austin Eckler a lot. Not as much as Steven does, but I do like him a lot. And in terms of PPR, he shows tremendous value. Wow, that was the worst interception I've ever thrown in Madden. But I still think that's a little bit of depth to give up for Zeke, being that Austin Eckler is as valuable, if not more valuable, in a PPR setting. But I do really like Ezekiel Elliott. So I don't think it's the worst trade. But if it was me personally, I would have held on to Jones and Eckler. But it's definitely a big trade. You're not wrong about that, man. All right, let's see here. Jason Kenobi, Eckler and Julio, Zeke and PPR. Zeke. Oh, and okay, I see what you're saying. Zeke and PPR, Zeke over Eckler and Julio in standard. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's. I do think the scoring format comes into play there as well. Yeah, it's. I don't know how I feel about that trade overall, man. If it was me, I would have just stuck in, with Eckler and Julio Jones, especially with the injury to A.J. Brown. But I've seen worse trades happen, so not the worst trade I've ever seen by any means. Evan Harrison. Is Eli Mitchell a drop or a hold if I have the room? Maybe wait a week. I don't think it hurts to wait a week to see how this team is going to implement him. But overall, man, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm not the biggest fan of this backfield as a whole. And I know a lot of people are dropping Mitchell right now. And our co-host Steven's dropping him. And I don't feel crazy about that backfield whatsoever, if you're asking me. I truly, truly don't. Trey Sermon looked pretty good. Didn't look as good as we've seen Mitchell play, but he still looked pretty good. So if it was me, I don't know that I'd be holding on to him right now, to be completely honest. A lot of good fantasy Q&A tonight, man. Really do appreciate you guys coming through tonight. Appreciate you guys giving me a lot to think about, man. It's going to be another interesting week here in week 4, man. It's been an interesting season so far. So definitely a lot of time left in the season for those of you who are struggling. For those of you who are not, definitely a lot to consider, as this season has not necessarily turned out to be exactly what we thought it would be, right? So do appreciate you guys coming out tonight and showing support and giving me some good fantasy Q&A overall. Real Gooded, how do you feel about James Robinson, and should I start him in my flex? I don't think he's a bad flex this week. I've got him. Well, I kind of have to have him in both my lineups, man. Cincinnati's actually been a pretty good defense overall. They haven't been as good against the run, but they're a little bit better than people are realizing, man. I don't mind him as a flex player this week, as it looks like Urban Meyer is warmed up to the idea of actually handing him the football quite a bit, which is definitely good news for us who own James Robinson. So yeah, I don't think he's the worst start this week by any means. All right, let's see. Any idea about Jared Cook as a tight end prospect? Oh wow, we might be able to win this Madden game. Let's go. He's all I have at the moment, so I'm trying to figure out if I need to upgrade there. Also, thanks for all the info, man. I am loving the streams. Appreciate that, my guy. Appreciate you showing that support and that love, man. Truly does mean a lot to the channel. So yeah, I own Jared Cook in my 20-man league, and he is my only tight end as well. I'm still holding out faith that he's going to have a pretty good season. We saw a good stat line in week 1. He's had a decent amount of red zone targets as well. So yeah, I still believe in him. He's got 2 good matchups coming up. Las Vegas, 21st ranked team against, actually I think that's just in general the stats I'm looking at. 21st ranked defense overall, and then Cleveland 20th overall. So I like this Chargers team. They are throwing the football a lot. So I would hold on to him. I don't think you need to panic quite yet. I think it could be worse. Now, if you need help at the tight end position, you might want to pick up Dalton Schultz while he's available, or maybe Conklin if he's available. Outside of that, I wouldn't panic just yet. I think it could be a lot worse, and I think he's part of a good offense nonetheless. So I think that's the important part. The way that this offense is utilizing the passing game, it's definitely going to continue to benefit Jared Cook. Evan Harrison, I thought about dropping Mitchell for Barber since I have an injured Jacobs. Yeah, I think that wouldn't be the worst move overall, as it it's going to ensure that you have the starting running back on that squad, right? And I think that's a pretty good idea. You can start Barber until Jacobs comes back, right? And overall, like I said, I mean, it's going to, ensure that you have the starting running back on the Raiders. And I think that's a more consistent, backfield to be a part of in comparison to the San Francisco 49ers. So I don't hate that by any means, man. All right, let's see if we can't throw a game-winning touchdown in Madden here. DJ Vic, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat tonight. Happy to have you here, man. Hope you are doing fan-frickin-tastic. Always good to have you. I just threw an interception in your honor in Madden, and we lost the game. I don't know why I was going to Le'Veon Bell there. So there goes good divisional loss by us, man, that we should not have lost. But it's all good. DJ Vic, happy to see you, my guy. Good to have you here as always, homie. Let's get to the question. What's up, man? Traded Allen Robinson for A.J. Brown, full PPR. I'm 3-0, so hopefully Brown returns soon. I like him better. I do as well. 100%, man. I think that was a fantastic trade, especially with you being 3-0, man. The way the Bears look at the moment, I think that was a great trade. You can stash him for now. It's not going to hurt you, obviously, as you're already 3-0, and receiver is the easiest position to pick up players on the waiver wire, right? I think you got to steal, man. I think on the season that's really going to benefit you. So great job, Nick Brandon. 3 interceptions in a row. Dang, man. Yeah, I will say in my defense, I'm doing a lot at once, and Madden's Madden's more just on the screen to give you guys something to look at other than my face, right? It's not an excuse, man. Not an excuse by any means. I still threw some really bad passes in that game. So I don't mind you calling me out at all, my guy. But yeah, I am kind of switching between what I'm looking at, and Madden's kind of the least important thing to me while I'm doing these streams. But nonetheless, man, it's the Catch Fam, Madden franchise. So I got to put on for you guys. I mean, we won the Super Bowl last year. So Steven says no defense, John. Hey, we're still en route to make the playoffs, I think. Let's see here. That's the weekly schedule. I don't know how to navigate Madden anymore, man. I truly don't. They try to make franchise mode like all freaking crazy, and Steven Scott, 3 picks in a row sounds like Joe Burrow. You guys just wait until Steven and I face each other on the live stream. Nick Brandon, better than I would do. Hey, man. It's just Madden, bro. It's no biggie. I'd love to get something down the road where I can actually play some of the Catch Fam in Madden, man. That would be like super, super fun. What's going on here? Yeah, we're still the 6th ranked team with that tie hanging on there. So we should be good, boys and girls. We should be good. All right, guys, we're going to start to wind down the stream in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So as I do to get up for work in the morning. So let me know any final fantasy Q&A for the night. And we'll get into it, man, but I am going to start to wind down the stream as well. I'm going to go through. Steven says Madden is life. Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm going to go through and see here. Man, Carolina has been dropped by like most leagues overall. Who are they playing this week? Most 20-man league giving me. They've got Dallas. Who's available defensively in my 20-man league? Let's see. I could go for Tennessee or Cincinnati. Man, I might go for Cincinnati. Although I've got Trevor Lawrence in this league, so it's like, do I really want to bank against him? And then they get Green Bay the next week. It's not a great matchup, but they've got some good matchups coming up. I'll put in a waiver for Cincinnati. Drop Jacob Eason. Jeez, I can't believe I have Jacob Eason on my team. I might have to drop Tua. I mean, seriously. I only have 4 roster spots in my 20-man league, and I might actually have to drop Tua. And then only have Trevor Lawrence, which is kind of scary. I've really got to win this week in my 20-man league, man. Pat F is a nice stream at tight end. Man, tight ends have been killing the Packers this year. That's a great point, Steven. I'm happy for our guy, Pat F, finally getting his first touchdown. Dalton Schultz is another good stream. Although Carolina has looked pretty good defensively. I wouldn't jump the gun too much on Dalton Schultz. But yeah, I think that's a great point, Steven. Great stream for the week, as Green Bay has been getting killed by the tight end position all year long. And our guy, Pat F, man, talked about him a lot in the offseason / preseason, man. And finally got his first touchdown, man. So I was happy to see that. Tommy Tremble, on the Carolina Panthers, is now the tight end 1 for the Panthers. He put up 10 points against Houston, although the majority of those points came from a random rushing touchdown he had. He really only had 1 reception. But Tommy Tremble, someone to keep an eye on in deeper leagues as well at the tight end position. Steven, is Dalton Schultz like the main target on this Cowboys offense? I'm so confused, yeah. It's a good point, man. He had a really quiet week 2, had a good week 1, really quiet week 2, and then a really good week 3. So I don't know what the hell to make of that. That's like as inconsistent as you can get. But hard to say, man. He's got Carolina, the New York Giants, and New England, so that should be a good test overall of how he's going to look on the season. But yeah, it's a good question, man, because I truly couldn't tell you. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wind down the stream, man. I do appreciate all you guys coming out for the night. Steven says, imagine being Dan Arnold, waking up 3-0. Being 3-0, waking up next day and being 0-3. Sad day for Dan, LL. Shout out to you, Dan Arnold, the Catch fam. Truly says, a prayer for you. Moment of silence for Dan Arnold being shipped to the Jacksonville Jaguars from the Carolina Panthers, man. We love you, Dan Arnold. We hope you ball out. We can all pick you up and stream you on the Jaguars. And with that being said, that is a good point to go ahead and end the stream for the night. So I truly appreciate all you guys coming out to the stream. Great fantasy Q&A tonight, man. You guys came loaded tonight with questions, man. Truly appreciate you guys overall. Day in and day out, man. Shout out to all of the Catch fam, man. You guys are truly appreciated. Within this community, from the channel, man. Cannot say how much I do appreciate you guys overall. And yeah, man, we will be back at it again tomorrow. Hopefully we will have Steven on the stream tomorrow, but if not, I will be on as well. So yeah, appreciate all you guys, man. Shout out to every single one of you. Get your fantasy Q&A together throughout the week, man. We will do plenty more to be prepared for you guys. We will have our must-start videos either being live streamed or being put out throughout the week. We will kind of have some logistics to work through, man, but just stay tuned. We got plenty of content coming for you guys. So 100% appreciate all of the Catch fam. I thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on the Catch, and peace.